Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today, we are continuing our ongoing coverage of the war between the Russian Federation and Ukraine. Now, a very interesting turn of events has occurred within the ongoing conflict. The following announcement has been released by the Russian Ministry of Internal Affairs. The Russian Ministry of Internal Affairs has announced that Ukrainian President, yep, you guessed it, Volodymyr Zelensky is wanted on criminal charges, without specifying the exact charges. Is Zelensky a dead man walking? Is this warrant a dead or alive warrant? The non-existing charges are very interesting. So is it possible that in the not-too-distant future, could we hear about a missile strike on a command and control node that eliminates Zelensky? It's been done before. The Russians have targeted key command and control leadership functionaries in other conflicts. The war in Chechnya, case example. That was a very focused effort in that specific operation. And I won't get into the details of that. But again, not outside the realm of possibility. Another person of interest that I would say at this point would be risking himself if he arrives in Kiev. Macron. Has Macron also put himself at risk currently? Maybe not with a direct strike on Paris, but some of these Western leaders have seemed to have taken to visiting Kiev and visiting parts of Ukraine at their leisure. Now look, this is a war zone. They don't fly into Kiev. They take trains. And those trains travel hundreds of miles to reach their destination. And as of yet, we have not seen the Russians targeting some of these trains. Not yet. But as you watch what is happening, and as you see this war escalate, as you see more Western weapon systems being introduced into the conflict, and some of these weapon systems, the ATACMS, the Storm Shadow, as these systems are used deeper inside the Russian Federation, and as this rhetoric heats up, especially Zelensky, I do believe his days could be numbered. At least in terms of being the El Presidente of the Ukraine. Now, I'm sure that Sean Penn has let Volodymyr know that he has a place in the United States, as probably many within his cabinet have homes already picked out in South Florida. If worst comes to worst, you can come to America. You will be safe. We'll get you out. But keep fighting. Keep fighting. Keep fighting. I don't know. I think the patience of Russia is wearing thin with this individual. That's what that warrant tells me. I think he is being put on notice that times could be getting very difficult for him and at least limited in terms of his stay in Kiev. Could be wrong on that, but we'll see what happens. The war continues, obviously. The Russians are continuing vast amounts of missile strikes against Ukrainian targets, as I've talked about before, that this fix and hold strategy, this fix and destroy strategy by the Russians, especially as they crank out these GLONASS guided glide bombs, this is just going to continue. And the Ukrainians really don't have the ability to respond. They can fire ATACMS, they can fire cruise missiles into Russia, but they're never going to reach the tempo and the amount of deployable weapon systems that the Russians are hitting the Ukrainians with. It's vastly different. Vastly different. You're talking about over 1,000 aim points being hit per month versus a dozen, 2 dozen from the Ukrainians. Do they cause casualties? Yeah, of course, absolutely, but not on the scale that we're seeing Ukrainian losses. It's estimated that last month the Ukrainians lost 5,000 personnel. Last month. It's an interesting figure, and that figure is only going to continue to grow as the use of these glide bombs continue to grow. It's just an absolute fact. Those casualty numbers will continue to climb as the Russians increase the use of those very large glide bombs. It's going to happen. And at what point, as I've talked about before, does the front line collapse? And that's kind of what we're watching right now. So more to come very, very soon as always. Have yourself a grand day.